Welcome to the podcast for Renaissance Fellowship, where we are creatively and actively revealing Jesus' love to our generation. Here we find the script in Scripture and the text in context. Follow us at reddenfellowship.com or join us live Sunday nights at 6 p.m. in Sunrise, Florida, or online via Periscope. Here's our pastor, Jared Kring.
I have to admit that I have a fondness for sports cliches. Does anybody have any love for sports cliches? Okay, let me give you how about this one? Leave it all on the field. Leave what? Like, are we leaving body parts on the field? I mean, what exactly are we leaving on the field? It's just one of those things that sounds good, right? How about this? Give 110%. You know that's not mathematically possible. You know, there is only 100% that you can give. Why can't 100% be like, give 100%? But no, it's got to be 110% because that's not really possible. Or throw out the record books on this one. Well, why'd we keep the record books in the first place? If we're just going to throw them out whenever we want, what's the point of having record books to begin with? Or the ones that always get me, it's going to be a war out there. Whenever they use like military or war analogies for sports, it's always a little comical because you have to imagine anybody that's actually a veteran or been in any combat situation is going, not really a war. There's no one's life's on the line. There's no blood and there's no real risk here. So not quite really a war out there. We're just going to go out there. This is a great one. We're just going to go out there and play our game. Well, who else? Who else's game are you going to play? You're gonna go out and play lacrosse while they're playing football? I mean, what exactly? But it's funny because when you watch like ESPN and people like do these interviews, they all say the same things, right? You know, the interviews are all the same, you know, and you just combine them together. Tom Brady, tell us about the game today. Well, you know, man, we're going to go out there and give 110%. We're going to leave it all on the field. We really want to take it to the next level, you know. You got to throw out the record books on this one because it's going to be a war out there, and we're just going to go out there and play our game. What did he say? Absolutely nothing. Okay, my favorite sports cliche is there is no I in team, right? Now, the funny thing to me about cliches in general is that at one time, they were powerful. They meant something. You know, I remember the first time I heard someone say, there is no I in team, I thought, whoa, that's deep. I mean, you're right. And I understand the metaphor. There's no room for self and searching out your own self-interest when you're going for a common cause. I understand it. And I thought the first time I heard it, I was like, wow, that's cool. I'm going to use that. But now, it's a joke. Like if you say there is no I in team, you know, you're doing it ironically. You know, you're doing it some sort of way to get someone to laugh because it's so overused. But that's the truth with most cliches and most things that are said is that at one time, they had great meaning, right? They were really powerful things that people would say. And then over time, with familiarity and overuse, they lose their power. They lose their impact. And I don't know if there's any organization that has more overused and undervalued cliches and phrases than probably church and religion. Because the things we say, I mean, think about it. I'm a born-again Christian, right? Now, when that was first thought of, when someone said that for the first time, that was rich with spiritual meaning and metaphor and complexity to be born again, to actually have this process where whatever you were before is gone and now you're something different and you're a Christian, which means to be a little Jesus. So you're born again as a human to a little Jesus. You're a born again Christian. Wow, right? How about evangelical? Wow, that word, that doesn't describe someone who goes out and shares their faith and is passionate about sharing their faith. It's a political party now. Evangelicals are a party. They describe a political system, a belief system, more than they do what someone does with their faith, right? What about when Jesus said, I will make you fishers of men? Well, the first time he said that, he was talking to fishermen. And it was like, wow, fishers of men? Fishermen? Wow, how clever. But now we just say it like, Yeah, fishers of men. Yeah, that's, there is no I in team. Yeah, you're fishers of men. Yeah, whatever. Or just how about the idea of salvation? To be saved, to be on the precipice of destruction and have someone come and save you from that. These words are powerful, but they've lost their edge because they're overused, because they're misunderstood, or because we're overly familiar with them. They become like cliches. So what I thought we'd do in these just couple minutes that we have together tonight was I wanted to talk about two words that I want to rescue from the garbage heap of cliche, and I want to reinstitute them into our vocabulary and start using them again. Can we do that? Does that sound fun? And so the first one is, I don't know if there's a more churchy word than the one I'm about to use, but it is a great word, okay? The word is gospel. Gospel. Now, everybody say gospel. Okay, now, gospel, the first 4 books of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those are called the Gospels, okay? But gospel means, does anybody know what it means? Chuck. Good news. That is exactly what gospel means. It means good news. Now, when we think someone's preaching the gospel, we think of like some crazy guy in a robe and dreadlocks with a "the end is near" sign on a street corner scaring everybody. He's preaching the gospel. You know, it gets scary. We think of this scary idea, or we think of a very narrow concept of what the gospel is. But gospel means good news. So when you preach and share the gospel of Jesus Christ with someone, what you're sharing with them is good news. Now, there's a lot of talk these days about news, right? There's a lot of talk about fake news. There's a lot of talk about where you get your news from. How reliable is your news? Now, what could be more valuable in 2017 than good news? I mean, really, where do you go in this day and age to find good news? I mean, there is no really public source that you can go to find good news. Because good news, they think, doesn't sell. You know, people think, what's the old saying for TV? If it bleeds, it leads, right? So they think that we want to see strife and contention. But what we're in the business of is good news. But you know what's happened in the church? We've started to adopt that same thinking, that negativity, that if it bleeds, it leads, the damnation, the hellfire, the judgment of God, the rage of God. Instead of remembering that our job, the New Testament, the message of Jesus Christ, is gospel. It's good news. I don't know about you, but our world is dire need of some good news. And let me tell you what the good news is. Can I tell you what the good news is? The good news is that we have a Father. Number one. That's some good news, right? Because for a lot of people in this world, they don't have a Father. So number one, there's a Father for all of us. Number two, that Father loved us so much that he sent a rescue ship for us before we even knew we needed to call for Mayday. That's pretty amazing. Number three, he sent his Son to live a life like us. So get this good news. When you pray to God and you pray to Jesus and you pray to Jesus and you say, "Jesus, I hurt," he knows what hurt feels like. When he says, "Man, I'm feeling pain," he knows what pain feels like. When he says, "I'm feeling heartbreak," he knows what heartbreak feels like. When you pray to him and you say, I'm not being appreciated where I am," he's saying, "Yeah, I know exactly what you're feeling." When you pray to him and you say, "I'm sweating, I'm bleeding, I'm hurting," he's like, "I know what you're feeling." He is, the Bible has this great word, an advocate for us, because he understands what we've gone through. He was tempted like we are, yet found perfect. He learned obedience through the things he suffered. That's good news. We don't serve a God who is looking down and doesn't understand what it's like to be one of us. That is good news. That is gospel. Now, I don't know about you, when I was growing up, they used to put these two words together. They'd say, that's gospel truth. You know, something was so true that it was undeniable, it was gospel truth. It wasn't just true, it was gospel truth. And this is the gospel truth, that we are loved. Now, the other word is kind of an interesting word, and it's connected to something a little bit different. The other word is greater. Now, you're going to say, well, Jared, how is that an uncliched word? Well, when I was growing up in the church, there was this scripture that we used to quote all the time, and it was from 1 John 4. 1 John, the 4th chapter, and Chuck will probably remember this. There's this scripture we quote all the time and say, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. We quote it all the time. Like that was on placards, on church walls. Man, it was on signs, bumper stickers. It was like one of those things that was everywhere. And I think eventually it just got old. People stopped saying it. But I want you to think about this idea that greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. Now, just pause for a second. What's in you is greater than anything that's outside of you. Now, if we really believe that, if you really believed that with God in relationship in your heart, inside you, was truly greater than anything that you will ever encounter, you know what that would mean? It means you would never, ever walk in fear. Ever. You'd never have to be afraid. You'd never have to worry. Because you would know that what's in you is greater than what's outside of you. And the problem is that sometimes we just forget that, right? And I don't want to say we don't believe it. Let's just say that we forget it. Sometimes we forget who's got our back. Sometimes we forget how much greater he is than what it is that we're facing. And we get blinded by our problems and our difficulties, and we think that they're so big and so insurmountable, and oh, how am I going to do this, and how am I going to pay this? And greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. There is nothing outside of you that is greater than what's inside of you, because what's inside you is an omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent God who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, who loves you more than you can possibly imagine. Greater. And you know what the thing about greater is? It's gospel. Greater is gospel. Greater is good news. The good news is that it's greater, and he's greater. And in this day and age, man, we are so caught up in all sides coming at us, trying to make us think that the sky is falling. I mean, they should just call the teens of this generation the Chicken Little generation, because everybody believes the sky is falling. If this person gets elected, the sky is falling. If this person does this, the sky is falling. Everybody thinks the sky is falling. And let me tell you, I got gospel for you tonight. I got some gospel. You want some gospel? Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. There is nothing outside of you that is greater than what is inside you. Because we have a God that showed us the good news. And here's the good news. You want some more good news? You can love your enemies. You can do good to those who use you. You can forgive anybody. You can turn the other cheek. You can go the second mile. You can give someone your cloak when they take your coat. You are more than a conqueror, because a conqueror is only happy when he wins. These guys tonight, they're going to play a Super Bowl. Guess what? One of them's going to win. One of them's going to lose. Who's going to be happy? Who's going to be happy? The one who wins, right? The one who wins is going to be ecstatic. There's going to be confetti in the air and Super Bowl hats. And the other people are going to be going to their saying, so, Coach, what happened tonight? Well, we just didn't make plays. You know, it's somebody's going to be giving their cliches as to why they lost. But see, as Christians, Jesus showed us that even when our life seems out of control, we could still be victorious. Because we can love our neighbor as ourselves. We can do unto others as we would have them do unto us. We are victorious no matter what, because we got gospel and we know greater. Greater is he that is in me. And so when you're watching the Super Bowl tonight, I want you to think about these words, gospel, good news. Because the only good news they got is if they win or lose. The only thing that's going to be greater in their life is if they win or lose. But we, no matter what, we have gospel. We have good news. And I want us to start using that word. When somebody says something, instead of saying awesome, if it's true and it rings true in your spirit and it touches you, say, man, that's gospel. Straight up, that is gospel. Somebody speaks to you and it's truth and it rings, say, that's gospel, that's good news. And remind each other, greater. Somebody's feeling down, just look them in the eyes. I want that to be like a code word for us. Like when you're getting caught up in the muckety muck of the day-to-day at work and somebody's got you down, just text somebody, say, hey, greater. Greater. Because greater is he that is in you than anything that's outside of you. So say gospel. Gospel. Say greater. Greater. I got good news. He's greater.
We hope you enjoyed our podcast. We invite you to subscribe and spread the word on your favorite social media and follow us at REN Fellowship or keep up with us at renfellowship.com. Tune in next time as we continue to share the gospel according to common sense.